Hi there, it's HorrorTube here. In front of thousands of onlookers on November 1st, 1991, Omaima, an elderly bride wearing a white wedding gown, and Bill, an elderly groom dressed in a black tuxedo, exchanged vows. But there was something odd about the ceremony's mood. During the entire wedding, attendees were actually whispering among themselves about how long the bride and groom had been together and how much their ages differed. It makes sense given that the bride, Omaima, is 23 years old and the groom, Bill, is 56 years old, a staggering 33 years apart. After just 5 days of dating, they also made the decision to tie the knot. How then did this pair come to be? First, let's speak of the bride. Call her Omaima Nelson. She was born in 1968 in Cairo, Egypt, and is Egyptian. Due to her height and long limbs, she was approached by several people who suggested she pursue modeling at an early age. Then, at the age of 18, she relocated to California in 1986 in order to pursue her modeling career. However, things didn't turn out the way she had hoped. She was shocked to see how many models were more attractive and stunning than her when she got there, and they were fiercely competitive with one another. Omaima continued to try out, but she was consistently turned down. She worked 2 jobs out of desperation to take care of her child and pay the expenses. Financial conditions were still difficult, though. 5 years after arriving in California in 1991, Omaima, who is 23, starts working part-time at an Orange County pub. This is where she really starts to draw attention to herself. She looks like an exotic Egyptian, has a background in modeling, has a fantastic body, and even has a strong command of language, which makes her a bar celebrity. And many of the guys were thinking, oh my God. And Bill Nelson, a middle-aged man of 56, was one of them. His obsession was Omaima. He so became a regular at the pub and went there nearly every day to see her. At that time, Bill was married. In my opinion, he went through some difficult periods. As an airline pilot, he had a luxurious job. He also lost his job as a result of his 4 years in prison for smuggling marijuana back in 1984. And he recently started working at a new company after being granted parole. Bill thought he got along well with Omaima and felt at ease. However, from Omai's point of view, Bill appeared to be a man of means, owning a home, a reliable job, and most crucially, a sports automobile. He's encouraged by the fact that he looks well together in the eyes of everyone around him, and Omaima began to fall in love with him. The two decided to tie the knot in a hurried ceremony on November 1st, 1991, 5 days after they first started dating. However, they were in for a honeymoon phase that was anything but easy. A month after their nuptials on December 2nd, the police department got a concerning call. A man spoke with a trembling voice and said, "I received something from a friend of mine. A human head, that is." The police show up at the scene quickly. The caller appeared upset and was biting his nails. Fernando Esquivel is his name. "Where is the head you're talking about?" the police asked him. He gestured to a location in the living room with quivering hands. There on the floor was a brown sack. After donning his gloves, the officer unzipped the bag to reveal a black envelope that held a black lump within the head of a man. Aware of the seriousness of the situation, the policeman inquires, "Who gave you this bag?" In response, the bluffer says, "Mine former girlfriend, Nelson Omaima." Jose then states in his testimony that Omaima made 2 visits to his home in a red sports car later that day. She left something in front of his house on their first visit. Then she vanished. However, she returned a short while later and knocked on the door. She broke down and started crying when Jose opened the door for her. She admitted that she had slain her husband after he had gotten into an argument with her and demanded unwelcome sex. Though shocked, Jose allows her in, hears her narrative, and determines he needs to take a moment to gather his thoughts. She informs us that their marriage has not been easy to navigate over the last month. Money was the first point of contention between them. It became out that they were paying exorbitant rent, and her spouse did not own their house. His monthly cost for his sports automobile was also substantial. They had a lot of outgoings regardless of their income, which made it challenging to make long-term plans. However, she was unaware of this prior to their marriage. After then, a letter arrived in the mail one day. She discovered an announcement stating that the car payment and rent were overdue when she opened it. Omaima, suspicious, pulled out the drawer containing her husband's paperwork. She discovered a mountain of overdue insurance letters and expenses for the car and property there. That's when the couple's concealed financial problems surfaced, leading to their breakup. That wasn't all, though. Omaima thought that Bill, her husband, was acting in an inappropriate way. After we were married, he was really violent. He demanded violent and unwelcome sex, drank alcohol, and routinely battered his mother and daughter. She claims that on the day of the incident, he made demands for sex, tied her to the bed, and held a knife to her head. This is when an irate Omaima reached into the bedside nightstand and took an iron, striking Bill in the head with it. Omaima saw that Bill was hurting and bleeding, and she knew that if she stopped, he would attack her once more. So she attacked him with some scissors she had lying about. She claims that her spouse ceased moving after that. She admits that she killed her spouse, but she says it was all done in self-defense. What's in that bag now, though? Her husband's head is in there. She requests a very gory favor from Jose. The only thing the police can identify him by is his teeth. So I need you to pull out the teeth and grind my husband's head in a blender, so I can dispose of the body perfectly. If you do that, I'll give you $75,000 in cash and 2 motorcycles. Jose was ecstatic to hear this request. He noticed that Omaima's hands were covered with scars, giving the impression that he had experienced a great deal. But the doorbell rang right then. It was while she was in Jose's house that a neighbor noticed Omaima. She informs him that he has numerous cuts on his body and should see the drugstore. Taking advantage of the situation, Jose tells Omaima, "You go home first." He adds, "I'll buy the medicine and then I'll come back." And he phones the police as soon as Omaima leaves his residence. He was so worried that she would return. The police begin looking for her right away. She was driving a Chevrolet Corvette, a red sports vehicle. They thus issued a bolo to the local law enforcement and conducted a thorough citywide search. They eventually located the red Corvette after some time, and they stopped her. "Do you mind if I take a quick look inside?" The police officer peered in the car's back seat and saw another bag, the same one that was at Jose's house, there. And there were clusters of blood that looked like human organs within the bag. Omaima was put under emergency arrest right away. The cops then visited the couple's residence where the incident occurred after obtaining a warrant. The police entered the building and made their way through the corridor to the bedroom. When the bedroom door was opened, scarlet blood was smeared across one of the walls. Something had obviously transpired in that room. However, there was an odd quality to it. The poison bedding was spotlessly clean. When the cops removed the mattress because they felt something was wrong, they discovered crimson blood all over the back of it. This was only the start of the terrifying revelation. As this is going on, a second police officer investigating the kitchen discovers Bill's body parts, among other things, inside a deep fryer. Additionally, they discover pieces of Bill's body in the garbage can together with turkey bones, a favorite dish in America. Only last Thanksgiving has passed. The corpses had recently been discarded among the food scraps. But it didn't end there. The police then proceeded to unlock the freezer. As expected, there were a few pieces that were packaged like food in plastic. Yes, these were bodily components as well. Put another way, she had dismembered her husband and scattered the fragments over the kitchen. There was a tremendous manhunt for the next 2 days. Along with the house, the police also searched the car, the warehouse, and the dumpster. And the number of mutilated corpses they discovered kept growing. However, despite their best efforts, they were unable to locate enough. There were about 45 kg missing. If this is the adult male body, then 45 kg are missing from the overall weight. What happened to that? In the meantime, Omaima completely rejects the crime in court, in spite of all this proof and testimony. That day, a man I didn't know called me and told me to open an envelope at home, he recalls. So I opened the envelope, and there was my husband's severed head. I was so freaked out that I called Jose for help. It was an absurd assertion. However, even she saw the absurdity of it and promptly amended her statement. "Actually, my husband Bill is a killer who used to chop women to pieces," she said. "All those body parts in the garbage bag are his victimized women." This is just the first of many stories she starts making up. Even the detectives are at a loss for words because of how blatant she is. She eventually admits it. 3 days before, to her apprehension, on November 28th, she confesses to killing Bill. However, she insisted that it was done out of self-defense when he tried to forcefully rape her. But the more we look into it, the more we discover that her method of disposing of his body was strange and totally inappropriate. To begin with, the body was dismembered and scattered across the house. They even discovered a portion of the body inside a deep fryer. They were in the fryer, but why? Particularly one finger has fingerprints on it and has been boiled in water, indicating that it was maimed on purpose. Even worse, there is this horrifying desire for Jose, the man, to have his teeth extracted in order to prevent identification. Furthermore, some of the bodies have not yet been located in the interim. Then, as a result of Omaima's confession, the case's most peculiar elements gradually come to light. At trial, Omaima asserts, "I was actually abused as a child," and she starts to make insanity allegations. But I had to see a psychiatrist to get the proof. She comes up about how she disposed of her husband's remains after the murder when the counseling session starts. She stated this: "I wore red lipstick when I chopped up my husband, and I wore a red hat, and I wore red high heels, and I chopped his body up. I thought the color of my husband's blood looked pretty appetizing. And it was Thanksgiving, so it was perfect for a barbecue." Nobody in their right mind would ever utter any of these things. After learning of her remarks, the police, prosecutors, and media were all in a tizzy. She dismembered and roasted her husband's body in addition to killing him. These sensationalized articles were everywhere. However, the details of that day are elusive. Omaima could try to seek a lower sentence by persuading a psychiatrist that she was mad. Police are currently investigating whether or not she is telling the truth about acting in self-defense. She claimed that the primary reason she killed her spouse was because he had abused her. However, Omaima's injuries didn't even match the spots on her body where she said Bill had abused her. And there's the murder weapon, a pair of scissors and an iron. However, upon inspecting her skull, we discover that she was stabbed to death with an iron and a candle. She is therefore not even being truthful about the crime. Thirdly, Omaima claimed that her husband had roped her up at the time of the occurrence. But if she was bound, how could she get to the nightstand and get the iron? With the distance between the bed and the nightstand, it was almost difficult to see the crime scene. Rather, we discover binding proof at Bill's feet. Put another way, Bill, not Oma, was the one bound to the rope. Her dishonesty caused the trial to become longer and more intricate. It ended in January 1993 following a protracted trial. She was given a life sentence after being found guilty of planned murder but not self-defense. It seems that her psychotic deed has been somewhat lessened. However, we're lacking one item. Why did Omaima kill Bill, her husband? She could rely on him to get by because they had just been married for a month and she was having financial difficulties. Omaima accused her husband of assaulting her, leading her to claim accidental killing. But there was obviously more to it than that. After conducting additional investigation, the police discovered that although the two were legally married, their marriage was not valid. Bill was married, as I have said. Bill just got married to Omaima because he hadn't divorced his first wife yet. Furthermore, it became apparent after their marriage that Bill wasn't as wealthy as he had believed. He's just your average dude. He is no longer even an airline pilot. He also understands that his kid and his ex-wife will inherit what little money he does have. We therefore assume that Omaima killed Bill because she was angry, because he was actually an old man with nothing, and because she felt that Bill cheated me. Naturally, the true reason behind the murder is never revealed to us. In the meantime, startling details regarding her subsequent life behind bars keep coming to light. 1993 saw her enter prison, and 2006 saw a significant change in her eligibility for parole. Even those receiving life sentences frequently have the opportunity to apply for parole. In the United States, after serving a predetermined period of time, Omaima thus requested parole. His boss described him as erratic, and she could be a serious threat to the safety of society. Her parole was denied, which was expected. It seems from this supervisor's account that she was anything but silent while incarcerated. Omaima begins writing letters while confined. She communicates with a man, and while she's still in jail, she ends up being married to him again. It's truly absurd. Following their marriage, they are permitted to enjoy conjugal visits. Eventually, her wealthy and elderly husband, who is in his late 70s, arrives at the prison. Furthermore, I can see why she would act in that way. Surprisingly, though, her second husband passes away in 2011, and Omaima inherits his estate automatically. All I have to say is that it's amazing. She is currently serving a life term in jail and is entitled to the entire inheritance. This implies that all she needs to do to live off of her wealth is apply for parole and leave. She reapplies for parole in 2011. Prison administration continued to be against her. In 2023, her parole application was turned down once more, and she remains confined in a women's prison. She will be eligible to petition for parole once more in 2026. Omaima, who is incarcerated at the moment, is counting down the days till then. Omaima, a stunning former model, killed and devoured her spouse in less than 3 months of marriage. Her narrative is anything but typical. When will she be allowed to reintegrate into society? Would society in America accept her back? That's HorrorTube so far. Thank you.